The book of Nehemiah speaks of rebuilding ruins, how a great leader raised up by God helped the people of Jerusalem to rebuild the walls of their devastated city. And then, of course, there was just all the political and economic worries that came from being in a difficult situation. In Nehemiah 1, from verses 1 to 4, now it happened in the month of Chislev, in the 20th year, as I was in Susa, the capital, that Hanani, one of my brethren, came with certain men out of Judah. And I asked them concerning the Jews that survived, who had escaped exile, and concerning Jerusalem. And they said to me, the survivors there in the province who escaped exile are in great trouble and shame. The wall of Jerusalem is broken down, and its gates are destroyed by fire. When I heard these words, I sat down and wept and mourned for days, and I continued fasting and praying before the God of heaven. End of quote. Nehemiah, whose role changed from that of royal cupbearer to governor of Judah, utilized multiple leadership strategies in accomplishing his goal of rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. His work was accomplished through an active prayer life, providing a vision to his followers, using his closeness to King Artaxerxes to receive help, role modeling, adaptability, and foresight. Furthermore, Nehemiah paid close attention to his followers' needs and was tenacious in accomplishing his goals. So in that era, when the question would they survive as a nation and as God's people, we read in God's word of how God is faithful and how he moved his people through some of their key leaders to do great things and resulting in the rebirth of his nation. One thing about Nehemiah and about any great leader is the recognition of a serious need, and then a heart to do something about that need. And in wanting to do something about it, asking God and talking to God and seeking guidance from God and praying to God. And then, as he talked with God, acting upon what God showed him, God's people and God's leaders need to be ready to battle against opposition and against those who try to stop the Lord's work at the same time as they battle to the need to build. We find in Nehemiah the importance of having servant leaders, leaders who are willing to sacrifice, who are willing to walk right along with everybody else, and also the importance of the people they lead, working willingly, working hard to carry out a great work together. Back to Nigeria, my people. What are some of the issues facing us as a nation? Truthfully, corruption is in every country, but in our country, Nigeria, it appears it has eaten up into the very fiber of our existence. It has even been identified as a culture. The news is filled with corrupt politicians who want to outsmart each other in being corrupt. Daily, we hear of how public officials are buying $million mansions and accumulating stolen public funds in financial establishments abroad. Take away corruption, and Nigeria, being an oil giant, should be recognized as one of the wealthiest nations, but the case is the reverse. Nigeria is ranking as part of the top 10 poorest countries in the world. How about our economy? We are the result of our decisions. If we do not develop our human potential, our resources, we can never manage our economic resources. How about increased rate of crime and terrorism? This has also negatively affected the economic growth of the country. Investors find it hard to do business in the country due to security fears. High rate of unemployment. Unemployment seems to be on two sides of the coin in our economic issue. It is both a cause and effect of the poor economic situation. Poor educational system. The educational system of this country is in shambles. The quality of education materials used in most institutions are decades old and not up to the par with modern standards. Even currently, ASUU has been on strike for more than 80 days. How about inflation rate? The policies of the federal government through the Central Bank of Nigeria have contributed immensely to worsening inflation in Nigeria. It is a function of the CBN to control inflation in the economy, but it has failed in this duty majorly because it answers more to the demands of the reigning government than to the health of Nigeria's economy. With all these and more, one might ask, just like they asked in the days of Nehemiah, is there any solution? Is there any hope in sight, as the present government doesn't seem to know the way out? Yes, there is hope in sight. Just like in the days of Nehemiah, the ruins can still be rebuilt. Peter Obi has what it takes to pilot the affairs of this nation. With our support, he can rebuild the ruins. Why Peter Obi? Below is a special report on Peter Obi from businesshighlights.com.ng titled Understanding Peter Obi's Campaign Strategy. No other candidate has used his testimonials in campaigning more than Peter Obi, the former governor of Anambra State. Obi is the only candidate that is telling how he pulled out a state education sector from being 26th in national exams to first. Obi is the only one telling how he cleared up pension arrears and did not owe pension or salaries while leaving office, did not borrow and still left billions untouched. He has propounded a theory that with prudence, much can be achieved with little and still have reserve. Obi is the only one telling how he ran a state without borrowing, because when you borrow without a plan to put it in production, it will be messed. Obi is the only one telling how he midwifed industrial revolution in Anambra, starting with midwifing the first car manufacturing firm in Africa to attracting international breweries, just to mention a few. Obi is the only one that is telling how he beat administrative bottlenecks to start funding schools directly, and it is working till today. Obi is the only one teaching about scale of preference and priority in governance. For instance, this is one example among many. A contract to provide street lights to the governor's lodge was channeled to provide standby generators to all over 500 secondary schools in Anambra. The presence of steady power aided the use of their laboratories, equipped by Obi, and computer workshops also equipped by him, with internet subscriptions that lasted 2 years after he left office. You see, Anambra being taught in external exams from a disastrous 26th when he took over was not luck. It was a product of work. Obi is the only governor in our history to have Congress of senior prefects in the state, gave them his direct phone numbers, and demand a call to report directly to him anything not going right in the school. The result? The school system took shape sharply and no one wants to be caught napping. This speaks volume about his capacity in unconventional ideas. Obi is the only one telling how he completed all the road network started by his predecessors, that by the time he left office, Anambra had the best road network in Nigeria. Obi is the only one telling how shutting down cost of governance enabled him to build and equip a teaching hospital and several other infrastructures from scratch, so equipped that open-heart surgeries happened there before leaving office. Obi is the only one telling how he used local policing to chase the likes of Evans out of Anambra State. Obi is the only one showing international award as the state with the best performance in MDGs among his peers. Obi is the one that left the most financially liquid and responsible handover note. Obi is the only one not desperate to be president because he is sufficiently busy. While politicians lie that they are being called or pressured to serve, run for public office, Obi is the only politician in our recent history that was truly pressured to serve because citizens are overwhelmingly aware that he is an asset. Obi is about the only former governor without a case filed in EFCC, yet he has been loud in criticizing the government of the day, known for vindictive tendencies. He must be too far from any coven to even be witch-hunted. Fortunately, these facts are verifiable. Listen, the choice before PDP is simple. Launch back yourself into the heart of Nigerians by giving your ticket to Peter Obi and watch the presidency delivered. It is pan-Nigerian movement, a social revolution. From there, the journey of attempting to salvage Nigeria from the mess can begin. Peter is better. Don't forget that. Honestly speaking, Obi is the key to a greater Nigeria. Peter Obi all the way. Dear PDP delegates, as we were once addressed, and I quote, "It is no longer news that life has become so hard to most Nigerians. A lot of us blame the government at various levels. However, we have come to realize the power in your ability to change the narrative in Nigeria. Also, we have noticed that we cannot continue to do a thing in the same way and expect a different result. Politicians cannot continue to buy your conscience and commonwealth with little money and loot our treasury for 4 to 8 years or after their death, even when they are in and out of power. What is the way out? We strongly stand behind you as we are permitting you as delegates to collect monies given to you by politicians during primaries, but still go on to rescue the country by voting the right, credible, tested, okay candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, to be the PDP presidential flag bearer. After all, the monies were looted from the country's treasury. You are aware that after you have voted the right person, Mr. Peter Obi, the losers will never come for refunds. Moreover, you did not beg them to pay for your vote. We all know the corrupt politicians. They have ruled us before, and we have their testimonials. He who could not manage small resources will not be able to manage bigger resources. Thank you all. For a better Nigeria for us, our children, and future generations, please share this video. Do not forget to like and subscribe. Once again, as patriotic Nigerians, please keep sharing until this gets to PDP delegates. Shalom. I come in peace.